Welcome back, everybody. I've been going on an adventure through the Legend of Heroes saga, and have already played through Cold Steel 1 and Cold Steel 2. I had started Cold Steel 3, but something in my heart said that I should stop, and it was time to go back. It was time to discover the origins of these characters that I had grown to love so very much, and the origins of this world and this incredible world building that I love hanging out in. So, putting my experiences with Cold Steel 1 and 2 in the back of my mind for now, here is my honest review of The Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky. Almost immediately, you are sucked in by the story of the Bright family. Cassius Bright is a world-renowned bracer who travels across the Kingdom of Liberl and the Zemurian continent, solving problems with his strong combat skills, tactical knowledge, charming personality, and life experience. You see, the bracers in this world function as a bit of a civilian militia or type of police force. Part of their code is to not get involved in political affairs, so they focus on mysterious unknowns, powerful monsters, criminal organizations, and other tasks that local citizens and officials need completed. But this is not really Cassius Bright's story, but instead the story of his daughter Estelle and her adopted brother Joshua. They're junior bracers, just getting started in a lifelong career of serving the people just like their father. Joshua and Estelle's relationship is very brother-sister-like, with lots of bickering and bantering with an underlying love for each other. Hi. I wanted to jump in here really quickly and say that Joshua and Estelle's story is a little bit different due to the fact that the game leans heavily on the idea that Joshua is an adopted brother and not a blood relative. There is a very fun, adorable love story that begins to develop. It's hinted at within the first hour. So this is really Estelle's coming of age story in many respects. So if that's not your thing, I totally get it, but it was an endearing love story. It never came across as gross or weird. But I feel like because it's such a unique plot point in comparison to most JRPGs, and it might not be some people's cup of tea, I'd point it out. Honestly, the Bright family as a whole has a ton of personality, with Dad picking on Estelle and Joshua, ribbing her here and there. Honestly, it was really unique to see a strong female protagonist put up with two guys in her home, and how she grows up with the help of Joshua, another senior bracer named Sherazard, and other incredibly unique friends throughout the story. The writing in this series, as always, is unbelievably fantastic. If you're coming into Trails in the Sky having played no other Legend of Heroes games, you are in for a treat and will probably spend the next several hundred hours playing through the entire saga. If you have played some of the newer games, you might know some of the details and you might know how some of the puzzle pieces fit together, but every game is its unique story in and of itself, so you are going to be in for brand new experiences and a brand new adventure. And the other thing to point out about this is just because this game is older doesn't mean that the writing is bad or that it's limited in any way. In fact, in many respects, it leans more heavily on the writing than the newer games do. However, it is important to point out that it's a slow burn. This series is notorious for long build-up and pays off in big ways as the story progresses, even past this first title. Joshua and Estelle's story has them traveling through the Kingdom of Liberl to various sections, completing jobs for the local guild branches. As the story progresses, the stakes get higher and higher, but you're still a bracer. Monster need defeated? Go do it. Car battery needs changed? Go do it. Is a local politician up to something sleazy? Better figure it out. The little tasks, the smaller arcs, all build up with each hour of the game into something grand and magnificent. The small mysteries uncovered become massive plot points. The twists towards the end are so worth it. All the characters, both friend and foe, are very well realized and well written throughout the entire game. Honestly, I wish I would have had a little bit more time with the other party members, but I suspect that's what the sequel is honestly for. There are so many incredible, endearing characters in this game. There's Tita, Chloe, so many different people that I just wanted to spend a lot more time with. So I'm excited to honestly finish this review and start playing the second chapter. One of the things I was really curious about was how the battle system of the older titles would compare to what there is in the new games. I was pleasantly surprised and honestly enjoyed the fact that it was simple, straightforward, turn-based battle system on a grid. Perhaps one of my favorite parts about Trails in the Sky's combat is actually the battle orbment system. It would remind someone coming from Final Fantasy of the materia system in many respects, except for the fact that the quartz, not materia, you install do not go into your weapons, but a standard piece of equipment called the orbment everyone carries. You can mix and match various quartz to build a character with specific spells and skills to your liking. Unlike certain games where some characters don't use any elemental spells, you really need to spec out your party so that everyone has a niche they fit, particularly when it comes to healing, buffs, and damage. Each of the quartz you equip in the game will impact your character's stats and also unlock certain arts they can use. Some characters have more EP than others. That's this game's version of your mana or magic pool. So plan out accordingly and create a party that can dominate. Beyond the magic style move called arts, you have special attacks called crafts. Yes, arts and crafts. These crafts are as varied as their quartz-enabled counterparts, but lean heavily on damaging attacks. Each character, when their craft bar is full, has 200 points at their disposal. Or alternatively, you can spend all 200 points at once on a special S-craft that is incredibly powerful. These S-crafts are available if you have at least 100 points, but the 200 point versions are the most devastating, but it takes a long time to build that up. One thing to keep in mind is that the enemies don't drop Mira, the currency. So there's some unique things the developers do to make up for that, such as making selling your old equipment actually valuable. Instead of getting 100 Mira for the 1,000 Mira sword you bought in the previous town, you might get something closer to 5,000 Mira. You can also grind for Sepith, which creates the quartz that go into your battle orbments, and also convert it into cash. I never found that I needed more money though. I always had enough. One pro tip is to be sure to rely more on your orbments for healing than healing items, or you will run out of money very, very quickly. Speaking of grinding, there is honestly only so much grinding you can do before the amount of XP you get is lessened. For example, Joshua and Estelle's hometown is Roland. During the Roland part of the story, eventually you just stop getting more XP, or so few points that it's not even worth it. You can still grind for Sepith, which is used to create quartz, but your character is only going to get so strong with their core stats in each section. You can't really overlevel in this game, although there are still plenty of ways to become very powerful with the right orbments. The battle system is a ton of fun, but it's honestly just a scene setter for the incredible storytelling and characters who the world deserves to know about. Falcom's writers and the folks who have localized these games deserve much more recognition for incredible character building. Estelle Bright easily finds herself in my top 5 JRPG protagonists. Oh, and a bit of a sneak peek, I started Trails in the Sky second chapter just to find out what happens next. It gets even better. These aren't just goofy characters fighting off evil with the power of love. Sure, there are definitely a few JRPG tropes here and there, but this game tackles serious subjects and isn't afraid to punch the player in the gut. The hurts hurt and the victories are sweet. And the music. I've been playing it a little bit in the background of this review, but the music team at Falcom does not disappoint. It never disappoints. I absolutely love the soundtrack and how they weave Whereabouts of Light, the game's main theme, into everything from certain battles to quiet moments. It's really something special. Are there flaws with the game? A few, but a lot of it is subjective. It depends on your perspective and your experience with the storytelling. Like I mentioned before, it's a slow burn. I enjoyed the early on part of the game. However, it's really easy to get lost in some of these dungeons. I personally deeply struggle with navigating some older games without dungeon maps. I know that this is just what was popular at the time of release. I'm grateful that newer titles have a map, because in this game I did a lot of circling around and around, particularly in a sewer towards the end of the game. It was maddening at points. One final question that should be asked when going back and playing older titles is this. Does the game hold up technically? I absolutely think so. The art style is timeless and holds up extremely well, which is honestly to the game's great benefit. More than likely, there are a lot of players who will start with Cold Steel and then go backwards. Obviously, the art style for Trails in the Sky would remind you of a PlayStation 1 era game, but the work that the teams did to bring the game to Steam shines. It's a timeless art. There's some blurring here and there, but visually, the polygonal characters and flashy attacks all hold up. You have to use your imagination a bit more with these games. Between the dialogue box, character portraits, you get a lot of strong emoting. There are dozens and dozens of character portraits that pop up to help with expression. I really like the graphics. They stand strong with other titles of the era that have timeless art styles. Would I love a complete remaster? Sure, but it's fine. The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky is, for me personally, just another entry in a series that I've already fallen in love with. I knew going into the game that I'd love it, and I did. I absolutely cannot wait to continue Estelle and Joshua's story. I really can't wait to see them fully realized when I get to play Trails of Cold Steel 4. This game gives you a whole lot to look forward to in the series, with awesome music, combat, and one of the best stories you will ever find in a JRPG. Dip your toes into this water. If you love JRPGs, you are likely going to love this game. The Steam version runs on very old equipment, so as long as you have an integrated graphics card, go for it. Might nab a controller though, that'll make it a little bit easier. What do you think about Trails in the Sky? How do you feel about the characters? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video.